right, fantastic. We're live. So, welcome to Heller Barnes, and just as happens, Mr. Heller is just a loser. He is out at some major. He's recording in studio this week, and it sometimes comes up last minute. Sometimes he knows 2 months in advance that he has a date at a major publisher, and so he's downtown New York someplace dealing with doing some stupid narration thing for some no-name. No, he's working at one of the top fives, and I get it mixed up as to which one he's at, and it comes up. So I have a fantastic guest. Kaleigh, welcome. Happy you're here. How you doing?
I am well. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
And in your last name, it is the same as what you use for your books. Do you have a pseudonym?
Yes.
Do you do a pseudonym?
Oh, my pseudonym? No.
Okay.
No. But Kaleigh Kirby is my official recording.
Cool. Well, let's tell. So I know because I do my research, I know you're an overnight success where you did 4,000 books in the first 2 years. Is that close?
Oh yeah, super close. It's right on the button. 4,000 books. No, actually, I am not an overnight success.
How long have you been doing this?
5.5, almost 6 years. But I started gathering my gear a couple of years before that.
Okay.
But I'm a single mom.
Uh-huh.
And
me too.
Run 2 other businesses. Yeah. Run 2 other. I never knew that about you.
Yeah, I know. Well, I try to keep it quiet because it's
yeah. And I run 2 other businesses, and so it took me a while to gather my gear, and then the pandemic hit, and I'm like, well, I've got the gear. Let's go.
There it is. Very smart. Very smart. And also, so let's set the table here. So you took your time. It wasn't you took your time. You had other things going on in life, and you still kept at it. And so, could I describe that as a slow burn for you?
Yeah. I like to think of myself as the tortoise, whereas some people are the hare.
Okay.
When they, coming out the gate.
Yeah.
100 books in their first year.
I have a student that did 100 books.
We've seen it happen.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
No, but we will call it a slow burn. And I did get into a coaching, right, where I just loved getting coached.
Okay, but that's so, and it hurt you ultimately, correct?
No.
So, okay, so let's talk about
it might take a couple years for some of that coaching to sink in, and you're like, oh, that's what they were talking about.
Right.
Because you don't know until it comes up or presents itself. So, no, it didn't hurt me at all. I made fantastic connections, and so I know most of the people that I should know. And but I will say, I like to say that I'm here for the tortoises in the narration world.
That's awesome.
Who again don't do those 100 books the first year and dip in.
So how many did you? What kind of? So your first when you started? Okay, so at some point you said, okay, I'm going to do this. You were doing a book every 3 months. How did it work?
I will say I got in over my head my first year when I started recording books.
Okay.
I started auditioning on ACX and pretty much got all the books I auditioned for. ACX was a little bit better then than it is now. You have to weed through a lot. And,
right.
So so I was doing like 3 books at a time.
Wow.
Which is not, but it leads quickly to burnout, especially when you're doing and I still do most of my own editing.
Right.
So when you're doing most of your own post, and you're newish, so you're not the fastest.
Right.
And it was a struggle. But having thrown myself in full force, feet to the fire, I am one of the narrators that can do all my own post and do my own editing and do my own. I know how how it all works.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it took me probably took me a year and a half to get into punch and roll.
Hmm.
But once I did that, I was, kind of off to the races,
That
so
makes
to speak.
sense. Well, before
Yeah.
we talk about the details here, let's talk about your background a little bit. You had a stunt where
Sure.
you were doing fishing off in Alaska, if I remember. Is that right?
No, I might have liked fishing in Alaska. I have performed in Alaska as a
Okay.
backup singer and dancer, but
So you were
fishing in
doing
Alaska might have been more pleasant than those tiny airplanes.
okay,
I'm
but
not a fan.
so you were so I know that you have a dance background, a professional dance
Yes.
background, and a cheerleading background, and a legal background, which is the traditional route for being a narrator. If I
to come to narration,
yes, but
I think that's the beauty of the narrator world is you never know where people come from. You never know, and there's no two paths. There's no two. Yeah, I went from performing to painting to law school.
and you in your law school, okay, and you have so first off, I have a law degree too, meaning I can pretend that I play a lawyer on bad commercials. Okay, they need a dumb lawyer. I'd probably be cast for the dumb lawyer. And then there's a junior attorney who's very smart and is actually telling me what I should do as a dumb lawyer. Um, but so did you actually practice law for a period of time?
I did in legal aid for a couple of years,
Okay.
which was very rewarding,
Hmm.
but also very depressing.
Yeah,
Um,
I've
uh, as- uh, and it's hard, especially in this current political climate, because I worked with a lot of immigrants.
okay.
Because a lot of immigrants come to legal aid for help with
Yeah,
their legal issues.
right.
Um, but it was very rewarding. But after a couple of years, I was like, why? And all the money for law school and everything. Um,
Oh, but law school isn't
I
free? Wait a minute.
No, I'm still paying those student loans, buddy.
Okay. Okay.
I
What?
say it with a smile, but inside I'm dying.
Yeah. Now, what made you go to that route? I mean, first off, we'll talk about narration, but why in the world law school?
um,
Because that's not an easy gig. That's not a short term. Hey, I think this week I'm going to be, going and become an attorney.
yeah, well, I did the 10-year undergraduate plan.
Okay.
So in between my first go round at undergrad, where I basically just danced and drank.
Okay.
Um,
The traditional. Yeah, that's fine.
and yeah, and then got a gig choreographing for USO and the pro cheerleading. Um, so I dropped out of college.
I get it.
Um, yeah, I wasn't doing fantastic anyway because my head just wasn't in the game.
I relate.
But and then I had a child, and then I figured, oh, I don't, dancing and choreography only pays so much, which is almost nothing.
Right.
Um, and I had a child. I mean, I kept dancing, till my early 30s, but I had to figure something out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Retail and choreography and dancing is not a forever career.
Yeah, that's traditionally a young person's
Mhm.
game. I mean, yeah, I
And I
relate.
had somebody else to support at that time,
Right, right.
So I went back to school and while I was back at school, I took a constitutional law class, um, and then decided I was going to be poli sci and pre law.
Wow.
And I just fell in love with the law. I fell in love with the Constitution. I fell in love with all the things we hope lawyers fall in love with when they decide to go into that profession.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense. That's cool. Very cool.
uh, Later, it becomes for a lot of people about money. Uh,
Yeah.
and why not? Because unless you have a family that
Well,
has money
unless, yeah,
already.
if it, yeah, you had a trust fund, right? That's,
Right,
yeah, you and
right.
me
That,
both.
money has to be a consideration.
Right,
Law school isn't free.
right.
So, grad school of any kind isn't free. It's expensive.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I did really well in that, and so went the pre-law track with poli sci and a minor in dance
Well, and
and
that means you
biology.
were also performing, correct?
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, still after I had my son, when I went back to school, I was the head of the dance team uh, at CU. So,
yeah, yeah. Now, I mean, first off, so it kind of makes sense to me that narration at some point fills a niche. Like, it's fun to perform if you're a performer when it's all working. And
mhm,
I mean, I don't like the whole process, um, but I don't like the process. Like, if you played drums, you had to go set up drums. You have to do a bunch of things that nobody accounts for as a performer. And now, if
right,
you're a narrator, you have to do pre-work. You have to go hustle for the gigs. You have to audition. Well, being a performer
prep, reach
already,
out, all of
you
that. Yeah.
know what it's like to audition and to reach out and to go ahead and try to build that. I mean, so what about that background helped you when you said, "Hey, this narration thing," how'd you stumble into narration?
Uh, uh, this is kind of a funny story, maybe. I had a friend. So I told you I run two businesses. So I was not unfamiliar with the gig mentality and gig work because I've been working for myself for a long time after I left legal aid.
Okay.
So I authenticate designer goods as one of my businesses. So I tell people if they're Louis Vuittons or Hermes,
Ooh, so
Balenciaga,
you know my
Givenchy.
shirt's Costco brand instead of a cheap
I
brand.
wasn't looking.
Instead of
Promise, I don't do that. I don't do that. I swear. So anybody who eventually meets me in person, I'm not looking at your stuff unless you want me
Okay.
to.
But
So
I'm so fashion forward. If Costco sells it, I know that they have some of the best buyers in the world thinking of fashion first, fashion forward, Don. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I know a lot of what we call bag ladies, and one of my bag ladies had applied for a job at Audible, an admin job or something, and she didn't get it, and and I had been missing. I've always been creative, like since I was little. If not dance, art, painting, um, and art is what I did for, like a year after I stopped legal aid,
Wow.
um, and had a couple shows, and yeah, and and then stopped. I don't, I know part of what I said was why, because I had small children and everything I was using is poisonous. So that's what I said. But I think I just, it's a hard field to make money in, but
Yeah.
doable, I guess. I just wasn't as motivated maybe as I should have been. Um, but she had applied for a job at Audible and didn't get it. And then I don't know, like it was literally one of those light bulb moments.
Mm-hmm.
So this light bulb went off in my head, and I'm like, people read books. People people act in books, and they get paid for that, and they get to act and be creative, and I think they can do it from home. I'm not sure. So so I just started doing a bunch of research, because that's one thing I'm good at is research. Um, I started doing a bunch of research, and then I met, I don't know which group I met Johnny, but I was very fortunate that I didn't jump into ACX right off the bat, or someplace that I didn't understand what was going on.
Right.
I jumped into the coaching world and
Ah.
the Facebook groups, and I lurked for a while. And I think it was, this will shock you, over politics that that Johnny and I bonded initially before I had ever coached with him and before I had coached with anyone really.
Yeah, and he's
Um,
so quiet about his beliefs.
I
So
know.
yeah.
God love him. I love him so much because I can always count on him to like have my back or vice versa. Um,
That's cool. That's cool.
But I met Johnny. I coached with him, and then I met other coaches. I got hooked up with your, I had my equipment by then. Your Jumpstart was so good for me.
Cool.
I'm just, bless you, Don Baarns. And I just went from there, and then I started auditioning on ACX. And like I said, I got $3 right off the bat.
Wow. But that, okay, did
But
you?
there's still stuff you don't know. You get the books, you didn't read them. You
Right.
don't really care what they're about.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
You don't really
okay,
care how they're written.
how many books did you audition for to get your 3? 3?
3.
Okay.
3.
And this was how many years ago? Ish?
5.
Okay.
4.
Some of the people that would have been pre-pandemic, right? I mean, a year or two before the pandemic-ish. Am I wrong on that?
I didn't record a book till the pandemic.
Okay. So that must have been right at the start
So,
of it. And
yeah.
so you got in a good time. Like it was still, it's just,
I did.
although,
And I lived in this gigantor beautiful house with this giant walk-in closet. And I understood what I could absorb what everybody was saying about your space. So I made that closet wonderful,
there you go.
for 2.5 years, and then kind of struggled with the space ever since. But that's for another day.
Yeah, but also so you happen to have a space. So so people are kind of going. So Chris has an interesting question here.
Okay.
As a lawyer, what changes would you recommend to the ACX management to improve the contracts between right holders and narrators?
Where to begin?
Yeah,
Where to begin?
you're not gonna have
Where to
any opinion on
begin?
that, are you?
Yeah, I mean, like everything that I think ACX doesn't have in their contracts, I have in my welcome packet.
Well, okay, so wait a minute. Now, some of the people don't even know that they
Know what
should
a welcome
have a
packet
welcome
is.
pack.
Yeah.
What do you have in your welcome packet?
My welcome packet, I try to, in a light way, to not overburden the author, because I work mostly with indies right now,
Okay.
and then some small pubs. My welcome packet basically lays out my process,
Mm-hmm.
the expectations they should have of me and what I'll deliver,
Okay.
and it has what I need from them, like a completed manuscript that's edited properly. What revisions I'll allow. I think ACX in their contracts has 2 revisions, and I'm like, that's a little open ended. Like I'm very specific about the revisions. I won't really revise for acting choices.
Why don't you
I need
revise for acting choices?
because they're acting choices, and I'm the actor that they hired.
Right.
So I will of course accept feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just did a book that's a historical fiction, but my client's grandmother wrote the book, so he was very attached to it, and he had very strong. He was lovely to work with. I totally work with him again. I don't think his grandmother wrote any other books, so it'll be fine. But he had very strong opinions about how a particular character would be. And initially, I pushed back on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then I thought about it, and then I'm like, you know what? Let me do, even though I prepped the book, I'm like, let me do a little more research into the era, into the, what he's kind of talking about. And I was like, okay. So I didn't change it the way he wanted me to change it, but I did change that character.
Okay, but that's a choice. I mean, first off,
yeah,
you decided that, and by the way, so I know we say we should never, it's all our choices.
right.
The reality is, though,
to an extent. To an
yeah,
extent.
to an extent. I have a similar example playing music. My instructor would tell me, if you ever get a country gig, I always, when I was younger, okay, I was very opinionated about what was, quote, good music and what's not good music.
I saw Whiplash.
And yeah, and so I would pick, you know, so, oh, that's garbage music and that's good music. And he's like, no, 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 shut the, he didn't say it this way, but he basically told me to be quiet. And then he'd say to me, if you get a country gig, when you take that gig, once you say yes, when you walk in that room, they should think the only thing you do is country music.
It's country music.
I mean, they should not know whether you like it or hate it. I mean, they should believe you believe in it. You're there to represent whatever the best of that is, and you can't judge it. That's not for you. Once you take it. Now, if you want to turn it down because you don't want to do that, that's a different thing. The minute you say yes to that gig or you get there and it's not what you expected, they better think that's all you do. And I'm guessing somewhat you do the same sort of thing. Like, so that allowed you to be influenced by it. And I know it opened up a bunch of worlds for me because it's like, okay, well, I wouldn't do. And then I find out there's some really amazing, great, fantastic country music and musicians that play that style. And while I was ignorant, once I got into it, it was like, oh, that's some interesting artistic choices that I didn't even know were possible. And then you could take them
and sometimes you discover that the thing you thought you wouldn't do or be good for is kind of your niche.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of your jam.
Yeah. Yeah. Today, I love modern country, by the way, for whatever it's worth. I've got a few artists that I've like, I like that.
Yeah,
I love
when
that.
I got into this, because I have a younger sounding voice, everybody's like, oh, you're going to be great for YA. I barely do any YA.
Okay.
I barely do any YA. I do a lot of horror. I do a lot of suspense. I do splatterpunk.
What? Okay, I know nothing. Oh, all right. Ignorant. Okay. What is splatterpunk?
Gore. It's horror, but it's very gory and gross.
Huh. Okay.
There's a lot of triggers.
Triggers for you or triggers for others?
Triggers for most people. Who don't like splatterpunk.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I did a book for Joe Hempel at Fright Night, and it's splatterpunk, and he struggled to find 1 minute that was appropriate for the retail sample. Like, Audible kicked it back twice.
Wow.
Because now they're taking the first 5 minutes, and no.
Okay. Now, why? So, okay. Do you have an acting background of some sort?
I do actually. When I first went to college, I studied music theater.
Oh, okay.
So, and then
that's all splatterpunk, right?
Well, it certainly feels like it sometimes.
Okay.
Especially theater in the round. Yeah. But now I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, sorry. No, we're talking about splatterpunk,
no, that's
though.
Okay. You're fine. So yeah, I went to school for music theater, and I changed my major because I was already working, and I had an agent, and I thought, I don't need to study acting. I don't need to study this. I'm working, and I was not correct. I was not right,
Yeah, but you don't know as a young person. I mean, whatever.
Well, yeah, you're young and cute, and you think.
I got the cute part. I wasn't the young. Anyway, no. So
things seem to come easily, and but you don't know how much to get in with some big dogs. How much you lack. How much that training could have helped you.
Yes, I moved to LA and got my rear end handed to me in the first 3 weeks, where you couldn't throw a cowbell without hitting somebody who was like 400 times better than you, more diverse, could play whatever you were trying to play better than you, and do a bunch of other things better than you. And it's like, I thought I was decent, and no, I was a total beginner. Lisa asked a really good question. And she's always asking this one because she likes to both see other people, and it's really great for other people. Some people make their welcome packet available to others, and many people do not. Where are you on that spectrum?
I'm happy to share my welcome packet because somebody shared theirs with me when I was new. I don't remember if it was Karen. I don't remember who it was. It's
Okay.
a pretty well-known narrator, but they gave me their welcome packet. They're like, change it, make it yours, switch things up the way you need. And that's what I did. And I've been adding to it and taking things out of it. But it's a fun welcome packet. It's not super dense, but it's pretty detailed.
But that's cool though, and also
And
because
authors genuinely kind of love it, you know. Um,
why do you think that is?
back to was it Chris
Yes.
who asked, okay, what changes we would make in the ACX contract?
Hmm.
I feel like the ACX contract is very geared towards the rights holder and ACX and Amazon, right?
Isn't that weird?
Um,
Somebody who writes a
I
packet, they
yeah. I feel like in that contract, narrators are almost an afterthought. They're like, oh well, these people do the thing, so maybe we should include them in this. So
okay.
so I would definitely add more protections for narrators. Rights holders who I I think there should be, even though they say they screen for AI and they make them, commit that a book isn't written by AI. Um, we obviously see a ton of AI books on ACX for audition.
Yeah, and they're not
So
screening.
I think, yeah, I think they should have more protections for narrators in their contracts.
Okay.
I think they should be more clear on. I'm not sure how they would go about enforcing it, but I think a better screening process for rights holders in the first place
Yeah,
would
they
get rid of a
they've
lot of the things that the contract is lacking.
yeah, absolutely. It's been that way for a decade plus. I mean,
Yeah.
I could go back 14 years ago, and I still think I just shake my head over some stuff that gets in there. And then I also think, okay, now let me think if how would you screen for this stuff? Sometimes
Right.
even they in the beginning, I
Right.
mean, and then of course in the early days, they just wanted to have volume of stuff, and it was like, can you fog a mirror? Sure, you can do this, and that was their criteria, and they didn't care. Now they've got actually they're screening more now than they were say 3 years
Right.
ago. They at least in the last year, and some of it's just because the narration community has pushed them to do that. But I
Right.
never think anyone should depend on them for anything. They're bonus, and so. But the cool thing
That's
is,
what's sad is like I came in right after they got rid of the where they used to give you
s-
the
the
bonuses for the
stipends and the bonuses, yeah.
yeah, I was really bummed about that. I was like, really? They used to do that? And like
Yeah, for
seriously, just a few months after. And I
yeah,
was like, God, that would really be nice for these royalty shares to get something. But I,
yeah.
I
So
get it,
so
I
for
guess.
people that don't know, they used to have this program called a stipend program, and what would happen is Audible was trying to grow their overall audience, and if somebody new to Audible signed up on Audible and stayed for I guess 2 months or 3 months, I can't remember what it was, then you got an extra $25 on that book. And some people they just went crazy
They
with it.
cashed in.
They cashed in on
Yeah.
that, and it was
The rights
abused.
holders.
So there were some rights holders that abused it, and that really, uh, in my mind, caused that to go away at some point. So so anyway, I think it's cool that you share your welcome pack. And I know, like Lisa, she's always grabbing them from everybody because she likes
Yeah.
to go, wow, I can steal something good. And, and that's what everyone should do, by the way. When you find somebody who's been around doing this, a little bit, you get their welcome packet and you find, all right, what are they doing that I could add into mine? But here's one of
Absolutely.
so what does that welcome pack do when you send it off to the rights holder? And then you end up with a discussion with them, or they just go, oh, that's super cool, or what does that do for them?
Um, I usually don't send the welcome packet, of course, until we've agreed to work together.
Okay.
There's no point in it. And so once we've agreed to work together, I say, hey, I know there's all this ACX stuff, or however they found me through my
Hmm.
website or whatever. Um, But I'm going to send you my welcome packet, read through it. And if you have any questions or if we need to, I'm happy to amend some things if it's within reason. Um, because there's usually something, you know, we need a bigger window or,
What do you mean
uh,
by that?
okay, because usually in the welcome pack in the welcome packet, I'll say, you know, this is how long it's going to take, but they might be busy or they might their book might be going through the final round of editing, or just any number of things.
Okay.
And my welcome packet, you know, I tell them in there, you know, this most of this is open to negotiation if you feel strongly about something. But in general, this is how I work. This is what happens. This is the whole process. At the end of it, I even give them information on where to, especially indie authors, promo their book
Oh,
or give away their codes.
smart.
Um, yeah. So it almost never happens that they ask me. You know, they're like, "Hey, what about this?" Because that we can change that in the contract.
Okay.
Um, but I think first of all, it makes you look professional.
Okay.
That's number one in my book. It makes you look very professional if you have a welcome packet, instead of just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, which is what I did the first few books. I had no clue, and they had no clue, so we were just a clueless mess.
Okay.
I mean, the books did fine. Like my second book was a paid book with a well-known author, but I'm not sure I met her expectations after she has worked with all these other seasoned narrators.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So it makes you look professional, and it makes you hold yourself to your own kind of standards, right? It just sets expectations,
I also think
and they
so.
can always refer back to it if
Right.
they
Right.
before they contact you with something little. They could always say, "Hey, what did she say she was gonna, or what is her policy on this?"
Yep.
Um,
I,
you know,
I just think if a rights holder knows that you're willing to do corrections, like you said the wrong sentence, and anything that you misread, that's open, and just having it say up front. But acting choices are something that I reserve the right to. I'm a performer,
right,
and when they understand that up front, because I do think the problem is even if you're quote right, if they don't know that's your policy, they think you're trying to get out of work when you try to explain
right,
that policy at the end.
right.
If you've explained it up front, they're a whole lot better about it because they're not shocked or surprised, and they don't feel like, wow, Kaleigh just doesn't want to do a revision here.
She
And it's
just
like,
doesn't want to do the extra work. Yeah.
yeah,
And
and
I'm
you're
like,
like,
don't
I would
don't
I would do
don't
it if
get it
it made
twisted. If
sense.
you're paying me, I'm happy to do
Yeah.
the extra work.
Oh God.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, I won't, we're in the end, I hope we're making money.
Right.
They're books we take for the love of the book or the love of the genre. Um, but you got to really love it, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I have a couple questions here that I'm going to pull up here. Where do you draw the line when it comes to the content of a manuscript?
As
I'm going to get,
personally, personally,
yeah.
I don't have much of a line personally, as far as content, as far as triggers, as far as
If you're going to do splatterpunk, which
violence.
I know nothing about, just the
Yeah, yeah.
name of
I
it.
don't have much of a line when it comes to that. I have a line when it comes to like super poor editing. I'm not willing to sit there and edit a whole manuscript while I'm narrating and make a bunch of corrections. Like we we don't have time for that.
Right.
Like that's and if I wanted to do that, I'd still be writing memos at Legal Aid.
Does your
So
welcome pack explain that you expect the manuscript to
I will
be
do minor corrections. Like if there's a word flipped or just a misspelling, I will fix that as I'm narrating.
right?
And then I might shoot them a word about it. But if there's like, if they're repeating the same second sentence like three times in a row, or just major things, like then I might read the one sentence and go back and say, hey, for some reason this repeats three times in a row. Is it supposed to be like that? Am I not understanding an author choice.
Right. Oh, that's good. That's a good way to put it, though.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't have. I know a lot of people have a clear cut. I won't do any far right wing nonfiction. I won't do any hardcore religious content.
Okay.
Just not interested, doesn't float my boat, and very opposed personally. So things I'm opposed to personally, I consider myself fairly liberal and fairly politically astute. Um, things I'm opposed to in that aspect, like I would never do an Erica. Am I going to get myself in trouble for saying this? I would never do an Erica Kirk bio. Okay, something like that.
Okay, but
That's kind of where I
first
draw
off,
the line.
so everybody's got their own the thing I find
Yeah,
fascinating. So
yeah,
my
and
wife,
like we know narrators that only do clean reads.
right, and that's and I know Lisa and I have always taught. We have this discussion. We're the opposite of you in terms of doing political things.
Right.
But we've screened before once we take it. I go, if we take that, you better sound like you believe 100% in that. Like
Yeah.
we've done voiceovers for the opposite of our point of view.
Yeah.
And I always go to her, my theory in the beginning when we were doing this, I thought, if we really hated this, then we should take the money from it and contribute it to our side. Because first off, the ad is dumb. So if they're
Sure.
willing to pay somebody to do it, but once we take it, we
Right.
do
And I
not.
could not maintain that for a whole book. I
Okay,
just
that's
couldn't
fair.
maintain the facade.
That's
yeah, and
fair.
I know it.
And that's
Yeah.
every actor should make those
maybe for an
choices. That's
ad,
good.
I don't know. I've not done a ton of short form VO.
Okay. And here's the other
So
thing. Lisa would never do a splatterpunk. I think we would have to have
a lot of people wouldn't.
and that's fine. And so the cool thing is that as long as you know what your lines are and your triggers, then awesome. And as long
Right.
as you do that up front, like our line is once we take it, make the decisions up front. And Lisa's actually asked
You're
me because
committed
I
to
have
it. Yeah.
pre-read. Lisa's asked me for a something that she could put in that would allow her to go, does it have political? Does it have the F word? Does it have graphic sex? Does it have, and that it could quickly read a whole script and give her the outline of, it has this, it doesn't have this, her triggers, knowing that my triggers, if it was me doing it, would be totally different than her triggers. She's got certain things that she will absolutely not do. And then she's got other things that are her gray areas. But as long as she knows about it up front, cool.
Yes.
It's her. She's like, do I want to read 10 hours of book to find out that at the end they have this thing that I totally disagree with? And do I, because she knows that I'm going to say, well, you should have not taken the book if that's it, because I'm going to say, you better do that as if that's totally fine with you.
Another narrator we know won't do anything where an animal gets
killed. And that's fair.
Yeah. So I mean, everybody has you just have to decide for yourself what your limits are.
Yep. Awesome. So, of course, Lisa says, hey, she wants to see somebody with a legal background. What's in your welcome pack? So Lisa's got contact. She's a sponge. She does it right. Yeah. That's really good.
Well, that's great though. That's great.
Well, I think everybody should go ahead and when they find someone that's got, and even if it's a different point of view or if you're coming at it from that point of view, she'll be contacting. I know that. Can you talk about your prep process? Are there any things you would do specifically? Like, would you prep horror different than if it's a walk in the park picnic, feel good Hallmark movie?
Yeah. My prep process is pretty basic. I read the book. I always read the book.
That's weird.
And then I try to read it for leisure, as if I wasn't going to be narrating the book.
Oh, okay.
I just read it through. And then in that process, certain people stick with me, certain characters stick with me. And I can't help but at that time mentally cast them.
Right.
So then I go back, not as in depth through the book, and then I try to do my kind of character analysis and character process, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this is the guy that I thought would be, Tom Hardy type dude, And I then, as I'm reading it back through and doing that, then I'm hearing Tom Hardy and seeing Tom Hardy. And that really helps me when I go to narrate, take on that vibe.
Yes. So you
Not
had
going to
you
try to be Tom Hardy, but I want that vibe. I want that
right.
essence. I want that cadence. I want that, and I may go and watch a couple Tom Hardy movies or clips, to kind of solidify who I think that person is in my brain. Sometimes the author will say, I had this actor in mind when I wrote this character. And then I will do my best to, vibe that.
Well, and also
Mesh it, if you will.
yeah, and then also, but I'm also going to guess you morph it to something that you could maintain. I mean,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
you already said it. You
Absolutely.
already said the smart thing. If it was a political thing, or if it's something that is outside of what you couldn't, it'd be very hard to maintain for the whole book.
Right.
That if something totally outside your comfort zone, and that's totally normal, and a smart actor to say, well, to maintain a character. So if their vision of a character was something that it's like, I can't do Jamaican for a whole, I mean, I could say one line in Jamaican maybe if you
Yeah.
wrote it out for me. And yeah. Uh, but maintaining that sort of thing for a whole book may not be possible. And so you're also morphing it to something that fits within your wheelhouse, I assume.
Yeah, because I mean, hopefully at some point in the book, you're in it, right? You're like, you don't really, especially the best books, you kind of lose track of where you're reading and where you're envisioning it happening, like you're in a movie, or like you're in it.
Yes.
and and you believe it as the actor.
Right. But that shows through.
But if you're doing something that's not that you don't believe in,
Right. But now that's you.
you're never going to find that spot.
So
um
that's so.
I think as far as long form, short form, I think you can make yourself believe whatever for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, I'll buy that.
for a minute spot.
Yeah, yeah. Now that's where, because you've done a bunch of coaching, you go on to some people, even though you have an acting background. Why in the world, with all your acting background and your performance background, would you go talk to some coaches?
uh Stage and on camera acting are not acting for audience.
Okay.
There's just and sometimes you don't know that till you start doing it. You're like, oof, I'm yelling at my microphone.
Why
I
is
am
that not
yelling
a
at my
good thing?
microphone. Yeah, no, it's not at all. I am yelling at my microphone, and I am overdoing it. I am
You're
I still, I still had that mentality where I'm like the back of the auditorium.
right.
And you're not. It's like intimate, it's close. And so camera acting helped me with that on camera. But I had done much more stage acting
Okay.
and performing in front of huge audiences. So I was used to the exaggeration, used to the and I didn't quite understand the intimacy of audio. And I didn't understand, I mean, part of it was just knowing what I didn't know. Like, I knew there was so much I didn't know. I wanted to learn from people who did know.
Okay. And did that
I mean,
accelerate
and I
your?
think part of that's age. I'm like, I'm not going to pretend like I know all about this. I I don't, but I want to be good. So let me find the good people who are coaching. And so I've coached a lot of people.
Well,
Coached
and
a lot of people.
talk about that. When you coach, first off, that's expensive. So how did you select somebody when you didn't know who was worth coaching with?
Um, Again, I'm good at research. So I had met Johnny. I researched Johnny. I saw Johnny everywhere.
Yep.
And a lot of successful people who had said they had coached with Johnny. So I coached with Johnny. Um, I think I did his nonfiction workshop during the pandemic.
Okay. Smart.
Uh, and I mean his fiction workshop. And then I did his nonfiction. Was he doing that with Sean?
Probably. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, but I did those two workshops during the pandemic. And then Krista Lewis was doing free coaching during the pandemic. And I looked her up and I liked her style. And so I can't say that the initial coaching, it doesn't give you, when you're new, you can only get out of the coaching what you need at that moment.
Yes.
So as I progressed, I was like, okay, I need a coach for this specific genre, or I need a coach who can help me with my audio, Don Baarns. I need a coach for the various things. You realize, okay, I could use some help in this aspect of my narration.
Right.
And so I haven't coached probably in a year and a half. But now I'm like, I want to coach mainly to get feedback of if I've progressed and what things they see that I could work on for specific genres. I mean, I've done most of narrator.life's workshops. I worked with Matthew on his 21 targets, which was like one of the most challenging things I've ever done, but fantastically useful and helpful because there's so many things you work on and it forces you to work every day. Whereas I was not working every day on my craft.
Okay. That's smart.
So
And that goes back to your roots though. When you were a dancer, you are constantly working on stuff, right? I mean,
you have to.
I
You
was gonna
have
say,
to.
there's no choice there.
Yeah, because there's always somebody younger and better and more talented. And do you want to get booked or do you want to get cast or
Right. Right.
it's not the dance world is not it's not the narration world,
It's
that's
not
for sure.
forgiving. It is definitely,
No, it's not forgiving and it's not congenial. You might be close buddies for say one show or a tour or whatever.
yeah,
But once that's over, you guys are like at each other's throats for the next gig.
right, right.
There's not as much space as in the narration world for the narration world loves everybody's voice. You just got to find where that voice goes.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's a lot more work, and if you and we're not going to go for the same job, so we can be friends and we can be, and nobody cares. Like,
But even in the narration world, in this community, even if we were going for the same job,
yeah,
like I wouldn't hate you because you got the job. Like
right.
that just is not the way this works with all of us.
No, you'd find other
We
reasons to hate me. Yeah, it's okay. It's
No,
and I'll give you plenty. But
I would be like, oh, way to go. And then I might go cry in a corner for a little bit. And then I'll figure out, well, and then I'd listen to the book later and be like, that's why I got it. Right.
yeah,
Like
yeah, because I
this
sound like
community
their
is so
ex.
freaking supportive. I don't know if I would have me, the slow burner. I see my role in this community because I don't go to all the events, because I don't, work with the big pubs yet. I'm on all their rosters. I just haven't, just haven't yet. And that's just the way it goes. I haven't done a quick pitch. There's still room for me. And so I see part of my role as like cheering other narrators on. I try to go to their lives. I try to I cheer them on. I wish for their success. And I get that and more in return.
Yeah, it is a great community. I do think it's a great community. Part of it is because the fact that 99% of the time I'm not competing with somebody else. I mean, even
Yeah.
I may not get the job, but I'm still not compete. I wasn't competing directly with them. I was the wrong person for the job from the beginning. It wasn't because another guy was doing something similar to. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. It's so totally different
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
the other
I
thing.
mean, we hear each other say all the time, God, I wanted that book.
Yeah,
I
right.
wanted that book. But we don't hear each other say that book was mine.
Yeah. Well, and
I
it's
hope. I haven't heard
there's
it.
room, and there is room even in this AI age. And I the whole AI thing, I don't know where you're standing on that whole thing, but anyway, um, I'm not as worried about the AI taking over because I just look at it and I go, I've been through this before when drum machines came out. And while today there is just a crazy amount of music that's done with programming, it's ridiculous. The amount of non-drummer stuff there is out there is wild. And yet I see all these young drummers, way more than in my day on a percentage basis relative to the amount of music, are making a good living at this because the live performances and the YouTubes and the other ways to do it. They can't do what we did back in the day, but
Right.
they have other opportunities and they can make so much
Yeah.
more
And it's
money
kind of
today.
beautiful, isn't it?
It
I
is.
mean,
It's
I like one
wild.
of my favorite things is just scrolling through YouTube, looking at like buskers and
Yep.
like
Yep.
I love doing that.
So,
People who are making their whole, music career
yep.
online.
Yeah. There's just so many. And so I look at the AI doing audiobooks or doing, we'll call it narration. I mean, for lack of a better term. Okay. But who are doing, but on a lot of the stuff that they're going to do are things that no, they would have done royalty share
Right.
because the book wasn't worth having a real narrator. And, um, and because of that, people are going to go, but that's just okay. And the people that are going to, the real rights holders that have something that is going to withstand, is going to end up with a human doing it anyway because it's worth it to them. And
Right.
they also, these authors, we have an author that said, I hate AI. And then now we find out that, yeah, but she's using it on the side to do some editing and some research for her. And it's like, I kind of laugh and go, well, she doesn't like it for a writer, but she's using it
Right.
for all these other things. And I think at some point she's going to realize, oh, but it could help for writing and give her ideas. And if you're a really great writer and you use a good tool, the things they can do are just wild.
I
So
completely agree.
but I just think that as a performer, that I'm not as worried about it, I guess, partially because I've lived it, where
Right.
a whole technology came in when I was a young guy was the absolute peak of programmed drums taking over studio jobs and taking over all sorts of things. A keyboard player would go out and play a whole gig by themselves and not need a drummer back when I was playing. It's
Right.
like, man, I was unhappy
Yeah.
about that.
I had a discussion with my accountability group at my accountability. I speak for a living. My accountability group,
Uh-huh.
my beauties. I'm going to give them a shout out real quick. Laura Horowitz, Sandra Churchill, and Elizabeth Lajolet. I love
Awesome.
you guys. Um, but we had a discussion. We have several discussions about AI, and at the end of the day, it's like AI never lost a child. AI never fell in love. AI never had heartbreak.
Right.
AI never failed. Like
Right.
those are things that you need a person
Yeah.
to convey.
And short
You know,
term, some things are going to go AI that like
they
takes
are.
away
They
the
are.
low
It's
hanging
inevitable.
fruit. And then people figure out it's not the same. The music that has the program stuff for a drummer, I kind of go, okay, I see what they're doing. Now what I find out is, man, most people, they'll do their demos with AI, they'll do their demos with the drum machines, and then when they go tour, they want a live musician. Then when they record the album, a lot of the cuts are with live people again because it's just a better feel in less time,
Right.
and the feel issue.
There's
But
just that, like, I think, not to get all, esoteric and everything, but I think there's energy, right? There's an
there is an
energy
energy.
in a live performance.
Oh
There's
yeah.
an energy that AI can't replicate.
Yeah, and
There's
I
like,
gotta Lisa's got she's going, royalty there's royalty share books that should have never been written. And like that somebody
yeah,
wrote a
yeah,
book and it's so just okay. And so they put, since they know nobody, they're not going to pay anybody because the book is not going to sell anything. So I write my memoir about how me and my cousin played tennis when I was in high school. Well, no one really cares about that. I'm not going to get a real narrator that's going to want to narrate my crappy book. So I'm going to use AI for my crappy book because that's the only choice I have. It's not even good for royalty share. Okay. So it's not a royalty share that I think people should take as a person. If someone came to me and my memoir of me playing tennis as a teenager is so bad and so poorly written that no one will, they're either going to use AI to narrate it or they got nothing. And there's a bunch of
right.
rights holders out there that want to be able to tell their friend, I have a book in audio,
Yeah,
even though it's
yeah,
an awful book.
yeah. And you see some, authors that are, maybe used a human narrator for their bigger titles, but
Yep.
they did virtual voice for their back
Yeah.
titles,
Yeah. Yeah. And because they know,
It is,
yeah.
yeah, it's just another income stream. Who
Yep.
knows how much they sell or
Yeah.
not? Like,
Yep.
I
And I
don't
see some
care.
people doing
I
that.
mean,
Yep.
I don't care. Um,
It
but yeah,
also,
no, Don is totally not saying royalty share.
yeah.
I still do royalty share books,
Yes, yes, yes. We do them too. We do them too.
absolutely.
We do them. And we've had some bizarre things where every once in a while Lisa will come back and go, that book that we did 10 years ago, that
Is
somehow got promoted
something happened? Yeah, I'm
and
making money on it.
we got another $50, or sometimes it's not even a big amount. It might be $30 or it might be $100. And we're like, what the heck happened to that? But we did it 10 years ago and it renewed. And to get $50 on something I did 10 years ago, it doesn't happen on anything else we did. And you add that up,
Right.
if you do enough of them, it's like, that's really weird that we're getting all this, this many years later. So anyway, I'm not down on
Yeah, and
royalty
you
share.
never know when something's going to hit, or
Correct.
an author has a hit book and people want to go back and listen to their older books.
Yep. 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 So
You never know.
as we wrap up here, what should people know about you? What cool things? What do you see? Where do you see this going? What should they know about you? If they want to contact you to get like they need help in your cheerleading and your welcome pack, how do they find you? Should they contact you by calling you?
They can contact me at my website, KaleighKirbyVO.com. It's very simple.
Okay.
Or just put in Kaleigh Kirby narrator and my website pops up.
Cool.
Where do I see this going? I'm just going to keep trucking, and I'm happy in the indie space, but I look forward to my first big public.
Oh yeah.
I like the freedom and flexibility that the indie world allows. But I can't say I'm not waiting anxiously for that first big 5 title.
That's, yeah, well, that'll come at some point because you're doing all the right
Yeah,
things. By the way,
I mean, look, am I working? Yes. Do I like the work I'm doing? Yes.
by the
So
way,
at the end of the day, there you have it.
oh, that's good. Did I get the URL right there?
KaleighKirbyVO.com. Yes.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay, I want to make sure I got it right. I mean, I think I'm looking at your site there and making sure I got the right one. Every once in a while, I'll pull up one and it's the wrong one and that kind of thing. So you've been fabulous, awesome. Really glad
Thank
you were
you.
here. And
Great chat.
yeah, just great. And what you do is you give hope to a lot of people who didn't get the fast start and do 100 books their first year. And there's a
Yeah,
lot of, I mean, there's,
absolutely. Look, I need people to know. I am a person of color.
me
and
too.
I never got a mentorship. And I applied. First 3 years, I applied. Never got in. Never got into Quick Pitch. Damn it, I'm here.
There you go.
So it just depends on, if you keep stepping forward or not.
Yeah. So the people in the performance world always give up too early. I mean, it's amazing how long it takes to be a great performer, and because of your background, it's not always. It's people that hang out and keep doing it and keep getting a little better every week. They should be getting a little better, and you can't
You
just
just never know what's going to happen and
right,
when things are going to come.
right.
You just don't.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
mean,
It's
I got a job because somebody put my name into Chat GPT, and Chat GPT said that I was like up there with with some Oscar winning actresses who also do voice work. And I was like, what? Okay.
yeah, but also
You
you
just
have it.
don't know.
You don't
And
know,
I was the one they could afford.
and you have a niche. Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, also you do some, but also, by the way, you do some of the things horror wise. I mean, there's not a lot of females that want to do certain types of things.
Yeah. That
And
are in the horror or sci fi space.
yeah,
Yeah. There's just not.
yeah, yeah. But that's so everybody should find something that they're excited about that sometimes is a little off the beaten path that not everybody else wants to do. So that would be the same as somebody saying, I only do clean romance.
Yeah.
That's a niche that whether somebody else wants to do it, whatever, or I do something that's in the animal. I love animals, and I specialize in
Right.
this, or I
Right.
specialize in medical, or a sci-fi, or pick your genre. There's a bunch of them
Or
there that work.
nonfiction,
Yeah, yeah, that works really, really well. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming on next week.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah, you're
Thank you,
awesome.
everybody.
You're awesome. And Johnny will be back next week unless he goes ahead and starts these
takes
stupid.
takes a gig.
I'm going
Yeah.
to go ahead and
You
get
got to
upset.
take them when you can. You got to take them when you can.
Yeah. And anyway, he just moved, but he's also out there working all the time So we're super happy you're here. Be sure to check out Pre-Read. So you can check, I got a new marketing site,
I
Pre-Read.
will. I heard about that and I'm excited to try it out.
Yeah, prereadnow.com is the new. I've got my marketing site up and working now. So
Oh,
prereadnow.com.
sweet, sweet.
And so we look forward to seeing you. And as always, we'll see you on the wires. You have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Kaleigh. You're awesome.